The Big Mountain was 10-6 in Week 10. Let's talk about it.
Week 10 is in the books, and we're back on the Big Mountain, where we bring you a detailed focus on the Big Ten and the Mountain West.
Hey, it's great to have you back here on the mountain. If you haven't seen us before, I'm JY. This is my good friend Steve. We're going to give you a rapid reaction for our Week 10 picks, where we went 10-6, which is, pretty decent. Unfortunately, our locks were only 2-3. Certainly always want to be 500 or better. Well, would love to be better than 500. Yeah. We typically are, but didn't quite get the locks here this time. We did have the most locks we've ever done with 5. So went 2-3 there. But let's break some of these games down. Steve, why don't you give us your reaction to some of your games?
Yeah, so we'll roll into the first game. The weekend started great for me. Indiana, I took them to plus 9.5. I said I thought they would keep this game close. Wisconsin was probably going to win, but I really thought Indiana would play them well, and boy did they. Mm-hmm. They went ahead and won straight up, which was great. So that was a good win out of the gates. But overall, my weekend was not great. Went 3-4 overall, 1-2 on my locks. The next game, going right into the Ohio State-Rutgers game. Rutgers looked like they were going to cut. They might look like they might even pull an upset at a couple different points, but definitely looked like they were going to cover, no problem. But at the end of the game, we get into that garbage time, and Ohio State just started to pull away, and they had a chance to kneel on it and end the game out, and they scored a touchdown anyways. Can't blame them. Yeah. So that busted the lock there. Moving forward, Penn State was my second lock of the day. I locked it at 8.5. I thought that line was totally bananas. Yeah. Maryland is doing their normal crash mid-season to late-season crash like they do every year. I think I read something, a stat over the weekend that they're 2-22 in their last in games in November and December since they joined the Big Ten. It's just crazy. So Penn State easily covered the 8.5 points. They won, I think it was 55-7 or something like that. So easy game for them. And then Illinois. I said Illinois would be a very close game. Illinois Mini would be a very close game, and boy, was it ever. And I actually thought Mini, when we were watching this game, and we thought Mini was going to win, we switched over to another game, and then we see Illinois won. So that was a hit there. And then Michigan, I want to talk about this game. We are going to do another video, another update on Michigan, where we talk about the cheating scandal and all that jazz. But I just want to say, so going into this week, I'd been 8-0 on Michigan for the year. Mm-hmm. We picked them the first 4 weeks of the year to start out slow, not to cover, and that's what happened. The last 4 weeks before this week, we picked them to cover, and they easily covered.
Right.
This week, I locked them to cover. I thought they'd come out and just smash Purdue, be angry. And honestly, I mean, they got an easy, comfortable win, but they just didn't look good. They looked uncomfortable. J.J. McCarthy looked uncomfortable. They just did not look good this weekend.
Yeah, well, they looked good in the first quarter.
Yeah.
Until about maybe, early into the second quarter. Yeah. So good that we did some live betting. Yes. We watched this game together. Yeah. We did some live betting on them to be over, or for the spread of 27.5, because at the time it was 17. And we're like, oh, they're gonna crush that. Yeah. And literally, as soon as we made that bet, they went to sleep.
Yes.
And then they never seemed to pick it back up. No. And I've watched several Michigan games. I'm not a Michigan fan, but in doing this, I've been watching games I typically wouldn't be watching. And this was one of the weakest performances I've seen from McCarthy. I mean, throwing behind people just seemed a little bit out of sorts. And I was big on your pick too in the pick episode that I thought they were going to come out and just walk through Purdue. But you would have had the win too. But there was a garbage time touchdown for Purdue, even with Michigan not really playing as good as they can. You almost had that cover anyway, but it was a very odd from about mid-second quarter on. It just seemed off. I don't know what was going on.
Purdue was giving them trouble in every area, and Michigan just seemed off in every area. And specifically, like you mentioned, J.J. McCarthy, probably his worst game since maybe the first or second game of the season. Yeah. Like you said, throwing behind people just seemed off. Just something seemed out of sorts for them. So we're not going to speculate big picture what's going on with that. We're going to look at just this game, and we locked them. They didn't come through. There was a garbage touchdown at the end. But specifically looking at it, because we want to look at, going forward, how are we going to bet them? How are we going to look at these lines? And today, or this weekend, they just did not look like they were on. So That's it for me. Like I said, went 3-4 on the week. So not a great week for me, but I'm pretty sure you had a pretty good week, JY.
I did okay. 7-2 on the week, 1-1 on locks, but 7-2. I'll take 7-2 every day that we do this. Before I get into that, I do want to. We forgot to mention some of our commenters and our viewers for our stickers. So I want to make sure we do that right now before we go any further, and we forget for the second straight video here. But we talked about doing one on our week 9 pick video. We pick one. Actually pick 3. I got 3 stickers to give out. So I'm going to give out some names here. If you're watching this video, that's great. Please reach out to us. So I got Michael. He's our friend from Nevada.
Okay, Nevada.
So Michael from Nevada. I got Austin Hoover, who was asking about some stickers, and Lonnie Roden. So if you guys are watching, please send us an email. We are at thebigmountain3@gmail.com. That's the number 3. thebigmountain3@gmail.com. Send us an email so I have your email. We'll get your address and I'll get these suckers out to you. With that, let's go on now. So 7-2, started off great. So Thursday night was my early line pick with Troy. I had them at -6.5. That line actually went down to about 4.5. And then their game day, it was up to 7 right before the game started. And they, a great game again against a South Alabama Jaguar team that a lot of people were a little worried for Troy in this game. But Troy's defense just, again, dominant against a good offense. So I'm 2 weeks in a row here for Troy. Glad they could bring it home for us. And I'm going to stay on my other picks because I was 3-0, and then we'll get into the Mountain West. The other ones I did over-under. So I did 2 overs. One was the SMU Rice game, well over 58.5. Both teams into the 30s there. A really good game. Close to an SMU loss there, an upset by Rice. Yeah. Rice has had 2 back-to-back very strong games. I mentioned they could upset Tulane a week ago. 2 points off there. Very close against SMU. So this Rice team is good. They can put up points. So we hit that over. And then the other one that was fun, we watched a lot of this game together. The Washington USC game, I said, hey, we're over 75 easy. I said one of these teams is going to get 50 points, which Washington did. And USC was into the 40s, so way over the 75.5. So 3 other non-conference picks, all that hit.
The USC-Washington game, if you like offense, that was a hell of a fun game. We enjoyed it. It's just play after play. I mean, Caleb Williams for USC was just distributing, making plays, and then the Washington offense. You think about Penix and those receivers, and they were good. They were very good.
Yes.
But then their running back averaged like almost 10 yards a carry, had over 200 and some yards.
4 touchdowns, I believe.
Just a really balanced. USC, we talked about this. They don't have a good defense. Yeah. And Washington may not either. I'm not sure.
Right.
But boy, these offenses, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I think at one point we were looking at live scores. I think the live total got up to 105.
Over 100.
Points.
Yep. Over 100.
Woo!
Yep.
So
early, I think that was right around halftime-ish that it was over 100. So
yeah, that was fun.
Well, let's get to the Mountain West. So Friday night we had Wyoming and Colorado, the game for the boot. They went at it, the state rivals there, the border rivals there. And it was a really good game. And I had mentioned in the pick episode, I struggled with it a little bit because of Wyoming's, just really poor effort against Boise at Boise. And also this Colorado State team that I'm just struggling to get a good handle on how just how they're going to be. But this was the Wyoming team that, we've been high on all season. They got it back together. And I said they've kind of had these, they get up for big games and have a little bit of a lull and then get back up and lull. Not lull that they're losing except for Boise. Yeah. But, man, they were up for this game. Peasley looked great, but I got to tell you, the offensive line was amazing. Peasley had tons of time. Whaley with holes that he could hit. Just a great overall performance from the Wyoming offense. Very, very impressive. So they obviously covered the spread there of 7. And, I was off. Like I said, Troy was my Thursday pick. Wyo was my Friday pick. So I'm off to 2-0. I'm 2-0 start before Saturday even gets here.
So great game. Great win for Wyoming. We were both watching it. I think separately we were texting each other. Awesome win for them. Was really happy. And I believe... we mentioned this before. You were really high on Wyoming this year to the point where when we did our preseason picks, even Wyoming fans were like, "This guy, what is he smoking?" And you gave them a what it was, a bet the house bet.
I bet the house.
Over.
I locked it, but I went something crazier than a lock. I said you can bet the house on them being over 5.5 with their wins. I wake up this morning. And boom, I got my money from my bet on over 6 wins. And we got 3 games left to play.
3 games left to play. So some people thought you were crazy how high you were on Wyoming, but you've been spot on with Wyoming all year. And yeah, they had, that loss to Air Force, and I don't know what that was with Boise.
Yeah.
But great season for them, great pick by you. And when you can hit an over win total with 3 games to go, that's awesome. So congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you. So next one was Army at Air Force. And I had said I was a little hesitant on that line at 18.5. And I should have been way more than hesitant because Air Force loses the freaking game, only scores 3 points. I believe I didn't watch. I watched a little bit of the game. I had other things going on there that earlier in the day. But I believe they had 6 turnovers in this game. Just silly. And we talked a little bit about these games when you have, the Navy, Army, Navy, Air Force, Army, Service Academy, thank you. Service Academy games can be kind of crazy. And, I can take that into account. But to lose like this to Army, and they were home. Like, I don't even want to say anything about this. It was so stupid. Other than, obviously, we didn't hit that bet. I was a little hesitant on it to begin with, but that should have never happened. First of all, not getting the spread's one thing. Losing the game by almost the 18 the other way is just crazy.
I do want to say real quick, the thing with the Service Academy games is it's almost like a different sport. Like, you just have to, honestly, with those games, I would always pick the under. I think I saw a statistic recently that the under in the is like 24-1-1 or something. The under when the Service Academies play each other. Now, I don't know if the under hit in this, but they're just weird games where they have a different perspective when they play each other than when they do other football teams, and they see this in practice or whatever. So, anyways. Weird game. There's no way to explain it other than to say that when the Service Academies play each other, all bets are off. The unexplainable will happen, and it just is what it is.
And it's disappointing. That's Air Force's potentially undefeated season to a team they have no reason to lose to. It's just disappointing on all kinds of fronts. But let's move on. So my next 2 are my 2 locks. I did take Nevada. It was home against Hawaii. They had 2 back-to-back wins. They were a -3.5. And just didn't show up in the first half. Their starting quarterback got benched. It looked like they were maybe going to try to come back, just not enough to be able to do it. So they lost the game straight up to Hawaii. That's really disappointing given to where Nevada had been the last 2 weeks. But these are the bottom dwellers of the Mountain West.
Very volatile.
That's going to happen. Yeah. The other one was the UNLV at New Mexico game, and I had mentioned. I was surprised at the spread at 9.5. That seemed low to me. Certainly didn't think it was going to be a 40-point or whatever it ended up win for UNLV. But I was very confident in that. Thus the reason I locked it. Easy win. Props to UNLV coming back with a vengeance after their close loss to Fresno. Yep. Clearly still dreaming of this Mountain West Championship game, that they're completely still in the hunt. Yep. Got some hard games coming up, but they're right there. So we're real happy for the Rebels there, and real happy that we locked. So again, 1-1 on those locks. The other 2 I had Utah State at -2.5 versus San Diego State. This game should have never made it to overtime. We were watching, especially the second half. We were watching this, and Utah State just let San Diego State hang around. Yeah. I mean, it's as simple as that. They made a quarterback change as well. Because their offense just wasn't going there in the first half. And, I feel bad for San Diego State's defense. They have a good defense. Yeah. And Maeda actually looked pretty good. So I'll give some props to San Diego State here. But Utah State, this should have never gotten to overtime. This should have been an easy win for them. And they did cover. So what am I belly aching for? But it shouldn't have gone that way.
Well, you're belly aching because they had the cover and they went into turtle mode.
They did.
And almost lost the game.
And I was cussing about that. Yeah. That's why I'm all worked up. But we won anyway. And then the last one was Fresno at Boise. A close game. I took Fresno -3. They covered by 7. But a really good game there. I mean, again, props to Boise here. They're coming off the beginning 4 or 5 games that just didn't go as they were expecting. They have found their groove here. They now have an uphill battle a bit to get to the Mountain West Championship game. Can still be done, but Fresno with that win is now clearly in the driver's seat along with Air Force to get into that championship game.
And I want to give props to Fresno State. Great season. They've been great all year. They have the only blemish on their record is at Wyoming, and just a great game where Wyoming played some amazing defense, and Wyoming's offense probably overperformed where they have all year. Yeah. But other than that one blemish at Wyoming, Fresno State just continues to march on. Really excellent, showing that they are right there at the top of the conference.
Absolutely. So, hey, that's where we ended up. Let's give our our review of what we've done here both this week, week 10, and we'll do our cumulative as we always do, and we'll be right back. All right, and that's where we sit after 10 weeks of college football. And we're getting ready for week 11. We'll get our picks episode out here on Thursday morning like we've always done. We also are going to have an updated power rankings video coming out here in a day or two. And another update on the Michigan scandal. We dropped our first episode on that on Friday. Another one we want to get out here. It looks like maybe something might be happening with the Big Ten.
Something's a brewing.
A lot of speculation that it could be dropping here any moment. So, hey, with that, we thank you for tuning in. We'll see you next time on the Big Mountain.